Share screen. And we're going to share this screen. And share sound. This one. I'm going to play this one today.
I think just really being engaged in it and, just taking everything in and doing your due diligence.
So for you though, what was the biggest thing to overcome, right? Because you've been in real estate for a while, and you 1031 exchanges, and so you hear it on Buck's podcast, me on the show. So what was the biggest thing that you felt like you and Jeremy had to overcome?
I think it was just trust. I think it was just learning more about the process, and if I've learned anything in my life and healthcare and everything that I've done, it's that education is very powerful, and you have to really understand. And so, also with Tom Wheelwright, who's another very brilliant gentleman that goes over taxes, and just realizing that it doesn't have to be scary. Don't be afraid of it. Learn, educate yourself. And so I think just really being engaged in it and, just taking everything in and doing your due diligence. And then, it's trust, ultimately in the team, but understanding how well it had worked out for so many others before me really helped. And then just really in being engaged in the process and moving forward.
Perfect. Love that. Yeah. I mean, I imagine you're in the healthcare industry, right? There's stuff that you have to learn and stuff you have to do that's really scary, and that's life and death with what you do, right? Versus just finances, which are very serious as well. So, all right, welcome everybody. Welcome. Excited to have everyone here to another mastermind here on capital gains tax, deferred sales trust, all things cryptocurrency, real estate. Man, we're going to cover a lot today. I'm so excited for everyone to be here. Welcome Ashley for the first time. Welcome Joel for the first time. Jake, my co-host and business partner, financial advisor extraordinaire. Jake, how are you today?
Doing well. It's a beautiful day. Glad to be back home after traveling so much this week.
Your hair is looking good this week as well as last week, and it's just really great hair. I mean, have you heard that all your life, or what, what's the deal there, man? What kind of shampoo are you using?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's Boswell, right? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think it's not so much the hair that's great. It's the fact that I haven't been around to go get it cut. So
no, don't cut it. It is getting wrong with this, baby. Dude, whatever you do, don't cut it. Because I'm going to see you next week in Dallas. I'll be flying in on Monday. I think you are too.
Right.
We're going to be hanging out with Tony Robbins on Thursday. And I just want to be able to just touch the hair and make sure it's real. It's not like some kind of fake, hair. So, all right. Enough of that.
I don't know that you can do this with fake hair.
That is true. That's probably true. But I'll report back to everybody next week. And by the way, we might be live from Dallas next week. We're going to figure the whole thing out here. We have to go an hour early too. So, okay. All right. So the agenda, we're going to be talking about the vision for this mastermind, as well as the closed deal story of the week, as well as the update on the cryptocurrency world and what's happening there with the Deferred Sales Trust. Welcome, Mike. Welcome, Tristan. Guys, thanks for being on. And so let's start out with the vision for this mastermind. So our vision for this mastermind is to make all things Deferred Sales Trust simple. Try to demystify it, create a space where you can ask questions. There's no wrong questions, no dumb questions. Ask the questions, right? Everyone here can learn. We're here to brainstorm. We're here to strategize, and we're here to try to demystify this whole thing. And as well, we want to connect separate worlds. In our view, there's typically three separate worlds, generally speaking, when it comes to building wealth. There's kind of the traditional stock market, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, more passive type of way of building wealth. There is the real estate world, commercial real estate, investment real estate, even like a business entrepreneurial kind of world. And then there's this cryptocurrency world that is, oh my gosh, exploding, amazing, right? And it's its own thing, right? And the biggest challenges for each of these worlds, if they sell highly appreciated public stock or private stock, selling investment real estate, or even primary luxury homes, or even selling cryptocurrencies, this thing called capital gains tax and sometimes depreciation recapture. So how do we connect these worlds without getting absolutely hammered in the middle? And the middle is somewhere between 30 and 50% of the gain and or the depreciation recapture, depending on what state you live in and what kind of asset you own. And so our goal is to take this deferred sales trust and help you understand it, so that if you're helping clients who are selling cryptocurrency, real estate, or a business, be able to defer. And then the cool thing is they can invest back into these different asset types as well to earn interest on the promissory note to pay them back. So that being said, Jake, do you want to add anything else to that vision statement or what we're building here?
You know, education is key and knowledge is power. We want people to understand and know what all their options are. Most people don't participate in something wonderful and fantastic like this simply because they don't know or they don't understand it. And that's why Brett and I are here as your executive team, so to speak. We team up with you and the business owners, the entrepreneur, the individual that's going to otherwise incur a very large taxable transaction or series of taxable transactions. We help them understand how they can, through tax advantaged wealth management strategies like the Deferred Sales Trust, how they can have a much better future, utilize more of their money going forward, and just keep the momentum going. They don't have to have a big pause, a big halt, or a big step back because of the IRS and whatever state tax or local tax you might be subject to.
Beautiful. Well said. Okay, so let's move into the second part of the show, or the meeting. I just got off a podcast, and so it's like sometimes they all mix together. Okay, hold on. We actually got another person joining us. So I'm going to welcome him real fast, and then we'll kick it off. So we have Adam joining us, and he'll be here in just a second. And Mike, by the way, Mike, welcome. And Adam, welcome. We're in the mastermind here. Feel free to stay mute and watch from the sidelines. Totally cool. We just got done with the vision statement. Now we're moving into the deal close story of the week. And so this is the deal close story of the week. In fact, you just saw the intro video for my new client, Stormy. Kind of like the coolest name ever, right? Stormy. And her husband's name's Jeremy, and they just sold a house in Arizona, okay? And so she's in the healthcare field. She's a nurse, and it's hard to pronounce, and I don't even want to try to pronounce it. It's like antithesis or antithesis, I think how you pronounce it, okay? She's very, very smart, and she asked amazing questions. We did about a 3 to 4 month due diligence period with her and her husband, and they invest in real estate, and he's also in the he's like in the construction world as well. So they did the deferred sales trust for the first time. They've known 1031 exchanges, and essentially you can hear her full podcast story and the entire kind of transaction. It's going to be live here in just 2 hours. It's premiering. But the biggest challenge for her is they bought this rental house, and it's an amazing rental house, and they bought it for rental, but it was in a community that was HOA. It was in Sedona, Arizona. Beautiful, beautiful house. And what they were planning on doing is doing the Airbnb thing, right? And so the challenge was the other people in the community, they didn't want renters, right? They didn't at least want continual rental turnovers like an Airbnb can cause. And so they really pushed back on them. So all of a sudden they found themselves with this big property that they had paid right around 1.3 for. And all of a sudden they're like not able to do the Airbnb. And so she finds that she looks at 1031 exchanges. She's looking for different deals. In fact, she did find a partial 1031 for some land that they bought with the partial 1031 to be able to do some development there. So, but it was only like 300,000. See, she's selling for 1.3 million. And as a reminder for the 1031 exchange, it's got to be equal or greater value, and typically equal or greater debt. Otherwise, the rest of that is boot. Unless you have the deferred sales trust to be able to have those funds sent there and be in a deferral state. So she knew what she wanted to do. And I always like this analogy. It's like in a Rubik's Cube, right? And you guys ever play with that? It has the blue, it has the yellow, the orange, the red, right? And you got to move it just right. Well, this is the season we're in right now. It's no longer about just cash flow. It's about tax flow. And in order to do this correctly, you have to use, to us, multiple strategies. So the goal is, what was she trying to accomplish? Well, we want to be able to buy this land and develop. Okay, but the land doesn't cost 1.3 million. So we turned the Rubik's Cube for about 300,000 of that. Okay, so do a partial 1031. Now, the other part of the Rubik's Cube was, well, we need the money to actually develop it. Okay, well, remember the deferred sales trust you can use to develop multifamily, as long as it's business purpose, any kind of commercial real estate. Remember, we talked about Shay's deal in Alabama, who sold a $2.6 million business, deferred $600,000, and he's building 70 multifamily units in Tennessee, all tax deferred, with a large part of the money. So she's like, okay, cool. So you solved the one problem of tax deferral. You solved the second problem of I can do a partial 1031. And then you solved the third problem, which was I can use the funds that I would have paid in tax to build on the land that we just purchased. So basically, those are the three things that we helped to map out and customize for what they were trying to accomplish. They sold the property for about $1.9 million, okay? And so they deferred the tax. The other part of it, which is kind of interesting too, is they're going to delay the income from the trust because they're high income earners, right? They're in the prime of their income earning, so they're going to delay that. And so as you watch her full episode, I think it's powerful, especially Joel, who's in real estate, Rebecca, who's in real estate. I'm not sure Ashley's background, but I'm assuming she might be in real estate too. Tristan, of course, CPA. And you can kind of glean the biggest challenges that she was having. And what I want you to be able to do is tell that story as if it's your own story, right? Hey, one of the strategic alliances that I work with, one of my business partners that I work with just helped close a deal for this couple out of Arizona. And here were the challenges they were facing. Jake, any thoughts on that?
A lot of times education is very textbook until it becomes real. So sharing these real stories and helping us relate to something that we participated in and how it could happen to us too, makes it a lot more memorable. And it really helps. It is the true form of education. People sometimes call it the school of hard knocks, or, they've been there, they've done it. And I think that as we're going about this, not only do we need to relate to it ourselves because of our own experiences, but when it comes time, we need to participate in it ourselves. And, Brett, you've been a real estate guru for a long time, and this is something very internal for you. This is something that makes a big difference in your life, not only in the life of your clients.
Thank you so much, Jake. Absolutely. So that is the deal close story of the week. I'm going to open that up for questions right now. So does anyone have questions on that deal story? Again, no bad questions. All questions are good questions. Anything that maybe you want me to kind of expand on? Any questions from anybody? You just unmute yourself. You could even just type it in the chat. And if you don't have any questions, that's cool too. Just give me the thumbs up. But I would love to answer any questions about this. So Joel, you're good. Rebecca, are you good? Or do you have any questions? Tristan, Ashley, you're good? Okay, everyone's good. Okay, great. So that's the deal close story of the week. Right, so let's move into the third part of this mastermind, which is the cryptocurrency side of it. And so as you recall, last week, we don't know this yet. I don't think you guys know this yet. I think only maybe Jake knows this. Last week we had commented that we did a 25% or 25 cents worth of Ethereum. Like we got the the pipes flowing, right? So, and like we weren't sure if and where this we couldn't find it. He put 5 cents in and it didn't transact because they have a minimum, and so it didn't actually transact. Then he put 25 cents in, then we found it. Okay, so guess what? On Saturday, the very next day after this mastermind, I'm driving to the Bay Area, and I'm going to take a crash course for a life insurance exam to get my life insurance, because I'm giving these referrals and people are like, they want to pay me money, but they say like, you have to get insurance license. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to be passing referrals, I might as well do that. So I'm getting this exam. By the way, on Thursday, I took the exam and I passed, everybody. I passed. Okay. So that was cool.
Congratulations.
But on Saturday morning, I'm driving. I'm never driving away from my family on Saturday morning. I get this text message. And in fact, I still want to read this to you guys. This would be kind of cool to kind of bring this thing to life here. And I feel like you tell me if we can write a book on this or not. Okay. So this is the actual text from my client. And I had said on Thursday, the August 5th, and I basically had said, hey, strike price is still 3,000, right? So Ethereum in May of 2021 jumped up to about $4,100. And then by July, it had dropped down to $1,800. And if you remember this client, he bought this thing, like 5-6 years ago for, very low, crazy amount of jump up. And then it crashed in 2018. And then crazy amount of jump up again in basically 21. So it's been this roller coaster, and we haven't had time to get it. So I said on August 5th, I'm like, hey, so it's at $2,800 today. The strike price is still 3,000, right? Because he said, I want to set it at 3,000. We're going to sell a big chunk of it. I'm just curious, is that still the plan? He says, yes, that's still the plan. Price may pull back a bit first, but bullish sentiment seem to have returned. So I'm confident about the sticking with the 3,000. And I said, he says, what's your availability later next week, so we can get like a case study in case this thing happens. And I'm like, I'm available whenever you want, right? So here's the link to schedule. And so he schedules. We do that little 25% cents transfer. And so Saturday morning rolls along. And he goes, this is Saturday at 7:37 a.m. He says, good morning, Brett. And he's like the nicest guy. And I'm going to try to get him on this podcast. I talked to him yesterday, or on this mastermind, and I'm going to see if he's going to come out of his shell a little bit. I'm hoping he will. But he goes, good morning, Brett. He goes, I apologize for the possible inconvenient time, but Ethereum has crossed $3,000 overnight, and we would like to liquidate this morning. And so I'm like reading this text as I'm driving, and I'm like, and in fact, he's in Oakland, and I'm driving from Sacramento, and Oakland is like, I'm like 30 minutes from his house at this point. And he goes, would you have 45 minutes so we can jump on a call to transfer the crypto into the orders? And he goes, if not, would it be okay sharing the credentials so I can set it all up myself? And so we go through this text chain, and I call him up. I'm like, I'm driving. You wouldn't believe it. I'm like 30 minutes from your house. I can't go to your house because I got to go to this crash course for this life insurance thing. But tell you what, I'm going to get to a Starbucks. And he's like, well, remember, don't go to a Starbucks, because if you go online on a Starbucks, then they could be on a shared Wi-Fi. Then you're more susceptible to hackers. So I'm like, you're right. Okay, I'll get to a Starbucks, and I'll just sit down and focus with you. And so I sit down, and then it's like you guys see those movies when they have like the launch codes, and it's it's like the nuclear launch codes and the thing. So he told me the week before, make sure you write down the launch codes. The launch codes are basically the extra code in case you ever need someone else to get in. So you never put these on an actual digital format because it could be hacked, but you can get the physical pieces of paper. Now the papers were sitting in my safe, okay, but I was traveling, and I was like, I'm going to be traveling to Dallas next week. This thing could hit 3,000 overnight. So I was, praise the Lord, I had the launch codes inside of my binder, okay, and so I'm sitting down with the launch codes in Starbucks at about 8 a.m. in the morning, and I'm starting to read these codes to him, and so we're reading the codes. And he's like, okay, here we go. And the codes go like 3, 2, 1, by the way. It's like Google Authenticator. If you're wondering how we do this, we don't just do it through SMMS text, because there's a thing called SMM card hacking, where someone can call and poses you at like Verizon, take your social, move your number over to their card, and then all of a sudden, all of your bank stuff is going to go to that SMS card, okay? So there's a thing called Google Authenticator, which only works for your actual phone, okay? So I open the thing up, and it's reloading, and it's every 20 seconds, it gets a new set of numbers. So I'm reading him off these codes, and he's like, okay, 275,000 has been transferred. Boom. He's like, 750. Boom. Over the next hour, basically, he transfers $5 million, okay? And I'm in and out of the classroom on the phone with the people, and I'm giving him the codes. Anyways, fast forward, we were able to do it all. We got it out in time. The price fluctuated between 3,000 and 3,200, and so we had to wait for some of the orders to hit the target rate. That is the story. So for the first time ever, I'm here to announce that we actually have closed $5 million worth of Ethereum. Can we get a round of applause? Okay, and this is big. I really think this will open up a floodgate of opportunity for more people. We have passed the 4-minute mile, right? Who's that guy, Jake, who ran the 4-minute mile first time?
Oh my goodness. You had to bring that up. And I'm better at numbers than I am with names.
That guy, right? So he broke the 4-minute mile when no one thought was possible. So we have done it, and it wasn't without the blood, sweat, and tears and everyone working together. But I share that story again so that you can hopefully internalize that story. Go ahead.
Roger Bannister,
right?
That's right.
So
now we just did the Roger Bannister of the crypto.
That's the way we should call it. I should say Roger Bannister of cryptocurrency and have the client on to tell the story. So again, I'm going to open up for questions. Anyone have any questions or even thoughts? Anybody, raise your hand, unmute yourself, and welcome to answer those. And Jake, without that, I'll just pass it to you. Any questions or thoughts on that?
We've got, people have heard that there's more than one way to skin a cat. We're not talking about skinning cats here on the call, but there's a lot that we can do based on your individual and specific circumstance and where you're at in the process. You may have crypto in a variety of different digital wallets. You may have it in areas that are that need to be consolidated and brought back to a digital wallet in order to participate in something like this. We have a lot of clients in the process right now, so we know what they're doing, and they've helped us become educated on how to help you best. So we've brought in the network of people, so to speak, network of clients, that amongst everyone, we're able to help each and every one of you based on your scenario. And if you've got a new scenario, we'll learn right along with you. But it is quite possible now that we've been into this several months that we might know a thing or two that could be of benefit in helping these transactions, instead of hiding them from the government, instead of being anonymous, that we can give them the breadcrumb trail that they want to see and still have it not be taxable.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what we're doing. We're reporting. Yep, I bought Ethereum for $100,000. It's worth $13 million. Oh, go ahead, Tristan. Thoughts or questions?
At what point does crypto become taxable in terms of capital gains? Can I exchange, buy and sell day to day, or does that create the taxable event? Or is it when I convert it over to USD? Can you talk me through that one?
Yeah. So my understanding, and everything depends on your individual circumstance, right? So don't take this as tax or legal advice. But there's certain coins that if you just transfer them, like Ethereum, he transferred the Ethereum. He didn't sell it to cash and then transfer it, right? He literally just transferred the coins to the Kraken account. And then from Kraken, we sold it off into the marketplace. But we created a new basis because we sold it for the same price that it was transferred to us for, right? The trust did itself. So my understanding is when you buy a coin and you sell a coin for a gain, that's when it's taxable, right? So, but could there be, I don't think there's like-kind exchanges in crypto. And so if you have Bitcoin and I don't believe you can transfer it without having to sell first and buy Ethereum. I'm not sure. There's so many kind of nuances there. Maybe Jake has some insights on that, but I know for ours, it was simply Ethereum transferred to the trust, right? In exchange for a promise of the trust to pay it back over time. So they're in a deferral state, the trust selling it to cash. But since the trust bought it for $5 million, sold it for $5 million, the trust has no gain, right? But it owes it all back to the original note holder. Does that make sense, Tristan?
Yeah, and then once it goes into the trust, who's selling that? You, Jake? How's that work?
Yeah, so let's call it a group effort. We have to delineate the duties and tasks of the two of us, because for regulations and for compliance, we have to stay in our lanes, so to speak. But let's just say that we add the executive team to the table, helping the client facilitate these objectives, right? So technically what we want to have accomplished is whenever the trust receives any audit or scrutiny or free look or whatever, if the IRS were ever to call and say, hey, let me see this or whatever, we want them to first call Brett as the trustee, because Brett is the trigger puller of all decisions in regards to the trust. And the client at arm's length, the client, so that he doesn't receive constructive receipt, communication with Brett and the client would be something similar to, hey, Mr. Trustee of the trust, there's a project that maybe would be interesting to participate in. Do you think that the trust would have interest? And then, something like that, they would move forward to make a decision. Now, as far as moving assets into the trust and then selling things in and out and all of that, there's a variety of ways that can be done based on if it's directly in the trust, if we're reinvesting in it afterwards through a joint venture with another LLC that's outside of the trust. And so depending on how things are structured and where the assets are in the moment of, it might be Brett pulling the trigger, or if it's outside of the trust in a joint venture relationship that the trust is participating in as a venture capitalist, or, the trust is participating in a joint venture that, that could still be the client in the future, with future projects after the initial transactions. And so that's why ongoing counsel, and the answer sometimes is it depends, but the purpose and actions that will be taken on our behalf relative to the client is always around keeping them at arm's length from the purview of the IRS, so that the IRS can never say that they've taken constructive receipt or control. And that means that we're able to continually defer them as if it were an IRA or a 401k. Any transactions inside are continually deferred going forward. Utilizing the trust and the trust manager to make that happen is how we accomplish this goal.
Does that answer it, Tristan?
Yeah, the feedback. So I got a ton of crypto clients right now. The pushback that I'm always getting is this uncertainty or this trepidation with the client as, so I'm going to transfer all my crypto to Brett. Right. So they have this hesitancy of saying, wait a minute, that's already in. It's a little different when it's an asset or a property, right? People are more comfortable with that. But this whole crypto thing of securing your own wallet and the fraud that takes place in that marketplace already kind of accentuates this question, right?
Mm-hmm. So let me dive into that a little bit, because by the way, the client we just did the 5 million with, exact same thing. I mean, 100%, right? That's the number one thing: the securing of the transfers and the security of afterwards where the funds held, right? So a couple things. One, we do like a Zoom screen share on the actual transfers themselves, right? Where he's physically, like when we did the test run for the 25 cents of Ethereum, he's watching as it goes, and I'm saying it's right there, right? Two, these single entity business trust can only do business with one single person or a married couple, okay? So the trust that we created for this client only does business with them. It's not commingled in other trust accounts. It's not commingled in my own personal accounts, okay? So there's protection there in that sense. Second, it's not unlike opening up an account with a financial advisor, selling the crypto, paying the tax, and walking in and say, manage the funds, right? So when that means no one can ever manage your funds anywhere, because you can't trust anybody to just steal your money. Like if I wanted to steal the money, I can't even steal the money, by the way. We have a bank account that provides what's called deposit account control agreement, which takes physical signatures. So this is basically the play-by-play. On Saturday, we transferred 5 million in there. On Monday, the limits for them to deposit out, at least with Kraken right now, is 1 million per day. So over the next basically 5 days, we transferred out all 5 million, a million per day. We opened up the financial advising account, and by Monday or Tuesday, all of that from the bank will go into the financial advising account. So there's these short windows where again, yeah, you're going to have to trust that I'm not a thief and going to steal the money, right? And then go to jail and lose everything. But that could be the same thing for a bank, or the same thing for another financial advisor, right? There's these things in place that take your approval, the transparency, everything there. All that being said,
I think that's where knowledge is power for the client, right?
Right.
Where as they understand that process, and that's probably where I'm weak at, to explain that process, but as they understand that process, or better yet, as I can help them explain that process.
And spend time with us, right? And it could be literally me, you, Tristan, Jake, and the client on the call as these transfers are happening, right? Exactly. So Jake's on my shoulder, you're on my shoulder, client's on my shoulder, like, and then like nothing's moving until they push the button, right? On their side, and they're seeing it go here, and I'm reading the codes to them. And I also have I have the funding, I have the trading, I have the master key, I have the sign-in key. Like these are all these codes that are constantly, they know this, right? So I'm reading those things as I'm saying, okay, we're ready to go to SunWest Bank. Here we go. Like, so it's transparent in real time. The other thing is, you can do it on Zoom, right? That's where we're probably going to do most of these deals on the U.S. If they were local, if you want to fly into Sacramento to do a $50 million transfer, let's get in person, whatever it takes. Maybe I have to fly to you for that deal because it's that big. I have to get permission from my wife and 5 kids to go. But yeah, I think the more we spend time together and show this, and then we also start in small increments, right? You don't have to put all 20 million of your cryptocurrency one trade after meeting me for 1 hour. Hey, let's start with $100. Okay, there's the 100. Okay, let's send that to the bank. Okay, they went to the bank. Now let's send it to Jake. Okay, Jake, it's all there. There's the flow. Now let's do 100,000. Now let's do 500,000. Now let's do 1 million. Like, you don't have to do it all at once. We can slowly build up this trust, right? And again, am I going to throw my life away for money? No, I'm not. Money's not worth that to me, right? So does that make sense, Tristan?
Yeah, and is there transaction fees on these transfers?
Yeah, it's $4 for Kraken per transfer out, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty insignificant. So
Yeah.
not like a broker fee to place a trade. We don't do stuff like that. Our fees are fee based, meaning overall performance. You know, if things go down, we get paid less. Things go up, we, based on performance, get paid more. And so our monetary ongoing incentive for helping the client manage all of these things is aligned with their performance.
Is that the same as what we discussed this week with property? Are the fees relatively the same? Are they different?
Yes. The fees are exactly the same.
Sweet.
Yep. So, I mean, our contract, it doesn't matter if they're selling property, selling crypto, selling whatever, it's all assets. And we are unique in the sense that we help people with a large breadth of asset classes, from real estate, business interests, marketable securities, crypto, insurance, what have you. It's all there.
And the value proposition is the same, where based on if they're going to have some sort of taxable consequence of $180,000 to $100,000, it's worth it. Or if they have maybe $500,000 or $1 million in assets, it's typically worth it.
Y'all get the minimums. Yeah, typically we like to see a $1 million net proceeds and at least $1 million gain on a single asset sale. Okay. However, if they had 2 coins, Bitcoin and Ethereum, both at 500,000 each, they can qualify there. But if you go, Brett, I've got 150 coins and they all add up to $1 million, I'd be like, that's 1 million divided by 150. That my brain has exploded, right? No. So the answer is $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain per transaction. That's also per property. I have people call me and they're like, hey, I got 15 properties, all like 100, or I've got 10 properties, all at $100,000 for $1 million. Can I do it? No, because the transaction costs, I mean, you can try to do it and pay us a bunch of money, but we don't want to take your money. We say no to that because it has to make ROI sense on both sides of it. So that's the thing. Per coin or per asset, $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, unless you have 2 assets that you're going to be selling quickly over the next, let's say 3 to 6 months from the time you sell the first one, that can combine to make the $1 million. Does that make sense, Tristan?
Yeah. And do you care? Do you let them ease into it if they say, hey, I've got $1 million and I want to put 500 in now? You typically want them to go the $1 million. For
Ethereum or Coinbase or a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, yeah, we probably ease into it for some small amounts until they see all the flow, like we did on this first one. They can dollar cost average out. The essence of what we're seeing here is we don't want just a one-off small $300,000, $400,000 deal that the trust doesn't make a lot of sense because it's a business trust and it's got fees and it's got a return, it's got stuff. Like if they have, like Brett, I've got $20 million worth of assets. I want to start with this first $500,000 deal. I don't know if I'm going to put the other $20 million into this thing. Would we do that deal? Of course, right? We'd want to approve and do that. It's really for, there's one single deal. I'm selling for $400,000. I got a $100,000 gain. It's so small that we just say no to that. So it all depends, but the general rule of thumb, $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain for on a per transaction basis.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, good questions.
Now, Brett, I have to apologize. I have to attend a meeting to do fundraising for a hospital.
Oh, okay.
But all of this stuff is very exciting. We're happy to participate. And Tristan, I don't know if you were sharing with me some of the positive feedback. Maybe when I leave, you can share some more of that positive feedback with Brett, with some of the clients that we've spoken to. I appreciate you being here today. And please excuse me, I do have to run.
See you in Dallas.
See you in Dallas. Thank you.
Bye, Jake.
Bye.
So Tristan, the floor is yours, brother. Any positive feedback? I'll take that up.
Great. Eat it up. With 2 clients that we had that we put you in front of with Jake, and then I think coming up this week we'll have some others, but obviously on the real estate side and the knowledge base that obviously that you have has been extremely impressive to these guys. They're impressed. They want to move forward. I think the thing that particularly for someone like myself or even like them is it takes, I think, a number of iterations to get past the skepticism, right?
Sure.
particularly when their trust is based in me, then I'm transferring that trust to you guys.
Right.
It's going to take, this isn't a deal that closes overnight. It's going to close, although we are closing overnight.
It's not a shotgun wedding, right? It's kind of like getting married. You're like, wow, I'm kind of marrying this guy named Brett, who's like, for the business purpose wise, like, do I really, like, it's long term, like this is my biggest deal. So that's part of why we love it, because it's such a challenge and it's such a reward, right? So I'm with you, Tristan. It takes time. Keep going. I don't want to cut you off.
But I mean, I think it's extremely powerful. I think, you're looking at, we got a $23 million deal going with a client that's, his basis is 2.3 million, and he's trying to sell in 9 months, so he doesn't even get the long-term capital gains treatment. He's going to go into ordinary income, which is going to be about $9 to $10 million in taxes, which is just criminal from there. It's like, what do they do for it? Nothing. But that alone, I mean, I think now you've got 9 million workhorses inside a trust that you could have given to the IRS that is now going to work for you in your wealth management day in and day out over the next however long you want it to. So that's powerful in of itself, not alone just the savings, but the number of horses you have out there working for you. At that scale's phenomenal.
Yeah, I like the quote of Mike Tyson, right? Everyone's a skeptic, or everyone is a winner or has a plan until they get punched in the nose, right? And this is what happens. So like, they're sitting there like, I'm going to sell my business for $23 million. They're all excited, and they go, oh, but you got a $2 million basis. And they're like, but I'm going to sell it. And then all of a sudden, the government says $9 million, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, like or even like, no, I'm a skeptic. All that stuff is really, too good to be true or whatever. And then the government says $9 million, and you're like, oh, you're bleeding everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not such a skeptic anymore, right? Because it is painful. And if Biden, by the way, his proposal, if it happens, 20 to 40. So I don't know if you're considering that that on the potential double or not, but it's if we have enough time, and this is what I would say to somebody, because I understand, because I was in the same shoes 10 years ago myself with my clients and people, and even myself going, is this thing real? And I want to tell you just 2 quick deal stories. And you may have heard this before, but you can watch this on my podcast, David Young. And David Young worked with a guy named Bill Gross. And you might not know who Bill Gross is, but Bill Gross is like the Warren Buffett of the financial advising industry, okay? And very respected, very well known, worked for a company called PIMCO. And David Young and Bill Gross and like 4 other guys took PIMCO from $80 billion to $1.2 trillion worldwide, managing money for some of the biggest wealth in the world. 15 years ago, they all retire, they get a big payday. David Young and 4 others start a group called Anfield Capital. And 3 years ago, they get approached by the Deferred Sales Trust. And they get approached with stuff all the time, and they dismiss it. Too good to be true, too risky, too whatever, right? But for 2 years, they did due diligence on this. Attorneys themselves asked questions, flew back, met with the tax attorney, went through all of it, talked with clients, the banks, okay? And after 2 years, they came back with 2 conclusions. One, the person who created it, which is the tax attorney who's brilliant, okay? He's the smartest person we've ever met in the history of all the stuff that we've done for 30 years in the financial advising world and tax and all that stuff. 2, we're all in with the Deferred Sales Trust. We are part of the asset advisory inner circle. We will give the optional way to help supplement, even with the Jake Muller, if they want extra eyes and ears and more people to help supplement the wealth. It's a little bit extra because you're bringing in even some bigger guns. But the question for the skeptic is this. If it's good enough for David Young and his team, his legal team, after 2 years of due diligence, he ran with Bill Gross for over 15 years, very respected in the industry, like a Warren Buffett type of figure. Is it good enough for you and your legal team? Right? And you can speak to David directly about this. You can watch him on my podcast right now, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can hear it. I've had David on like 6 different times on the podcast, and he tells this part of the story called Overcoming False Beliefs with the Deferred Sales Trust. So my point of all this is the more teams or more groups, more stories, more evidence. We don't want you to base this just on like emotion, evidence from people who are very smart, much smarter than me in a lot of ways. Those are the ones that we can put you in touch with to get you more comfortable. Does that make sense, Tristan? Or any thoughts on that?
No, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I see the evolution of the client who obviously has their own attorney in this case, and one of them has a CPA that's now getting fired through the process. But their evolution of trust is obviously, I assume, because when they leave and then they come back with more questions, they leave and they come back with more questions, they're doing their due diligence on their end, they're doing their research, and then as everything keeps just panning out for them and their answers are congruent with what we've told them, all of a sudden he's like, do I really need my attorney? Because I'm ready to go.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And we encourage people to bring in their trusted advisors. Like, we want them to be a part of the team. And oftentimes, as long as they engage with us and really think about what this thing is and sign the NDAs, which Tristan has signed, right? And make sure, because we don't want to give away our secrets. 9 out of 10 of them say yes. Not only that, but they end up joining us and bringing us more clients because they realize that it is this good, it is this legal, and it has a perfect track record, over a dozen audits, over 25 years. The IRS knows who we are. We've never been on an IRS watch list, never been on a dirty dozen. It's perfect. It's worked every time. So, but there's only one law firm, and it's proprietary and it's protected, and we do not give our secrets away. So this is kind of this evolution of this. By the way, we have national law firms that reviewed this, thousands of business professionals, financial advisors like Jake, CPAs like Tristan across the U.S. that are using it for their clients. So, that's great, Tristan. I appreciate that. Any questions or thoughts from Rebecca, Ashley, Joel, or Adam?
I'm good. I have a lot of people that I want to share this with.
Who do you want to share about, Rebecca? Who are you thinking about?
Another realtor that's in my area. I spoke to her yesterday. Her husband's a builder. She's in real estate. They're buying, building, selling, doing multiple things. A lot of what we were talking about from the story this morning. And then other agents within my office, because we specialize in so many luxury real estate sales and purchases, $3, $8, $10 million buys and sells in the area. So,
and what area are you in, Rebecca?
North Lake Tahoe and Truckee. So, yeah.
It's a beautiful area. It's like one of my favorites in the world.
It's awesome. It's smoky right now. So wait a couple weeks, but if you want to come visit.
And I'm an hour and a half away from Rebecca, and Rebecca's, she's one of my coaching clients. And so we're coaching her how to roll this out, and she'll be rolling it out in a big way up there. And so I'm excited to be working with you, Rebecca. And so that is cool. Any other thoughts on that?
No, just super excited to get started and keep moving forward.
Exactly. Space repetition, right? Taking it in, attending these, looking at deal stories, and then start to apply it as you're talking. I'm sure you are, Rebecca, with others. And that's when you're riding this bike. It's wobbly at first, and then you're going full speed. Tristan, other thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I got a unique question.
Yeah.
I got a large number of clients. So I have a client that sells mining rigs for Bitcoin. So they go out and mine the Bitcoin over time. We haven't tested it out, but the mining is promoted to the fact that they should be mining lots and lots of money. So now I have these crypto clients that are buying mining rigs that are now coming to us for saying, okay, if I buy this rig and it starts mining crypto, which then their basis is like zero because they didn't pay for anything. Is there a thought, or maybe you could think about whether or not if they had a trust, if they could do some sort of annual, I don't know if you call it a contribution or an annual transfer as they continue to build this out over time.
So let me clarify for a second. Are you referring to the coin in which their basis is X and it's gone to Y, or are you referring to the actual rig, like the computer system?
I'm referring to the coin in the trust. The rig would be like any, I think on a tax basis, it's going to be just like any other asset that you
It's
do.
like inventory, right? That wouldn't be tax deferrable, right? Exactly. So yeah, okay.
But
So
it's the
yeah,
actual acquiring of the coin.
yeah. Since it's one coin, right? Even though it's all these small amounts or small increments of the coin, they're going to have an established basis, whatever that is, right? And then they're going to have a gain eventually. So the answer is yes, right? Except let's just get that to $1 million, right?
Okay.
Or close to it. That makes sense. So we just don't want to be doing the small we want to do it all at once on a transaction versus 100 transactions where the cost goes higher. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if they got to $1 million, they put in $1 million into the trust, and then
They transfer it into the trust, right? They transfer the Bitcoin to the trust, right? Versus selling the Bitcoin and paying cash and then moving over, right? As long as they do it in that order.
transfer it over. But ongoing this next year, they're going to keep mining coin.
Yeah, they can add to the trust. Absolutely.
Adding to it.
Yeah. So if anything, they say, okay, how much did they mine last year? They say they made $1 million last year, Brett. About $1 million gain. Okay, cool. How many coins? X amount of coins. Great. At the end of the year, let's transfer it over. Then they go do it again. And then now the next year they transfer that $1 million over. By 3 or 4 years, they have $3 or $4 million now.
Great. Excellent.
Cool. Great question. Any other questions?
I like that.
Okay. Well, we've spent 45 minutes. I think we've covered a lot today. So again, this is live on YouTube. So you can share this. This is also on our Facebook Capital Gains Tax Solutions page. By the way, big ask for you guys. If you haven't subscribed, rated, or reviewed, please do that. And you can do that at Google My Business for Capital Gains Tax Solutions. You can do it on Facebook. And of course, you can subscribe to Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and also review that as well. All of that helps to get the word out, and it would mean the world to me to do that. Other than that, I want to wish you all a wonderful Friday, a great next week. Again, I will be in Dallas next week, and I think we'll do a quick. Let's see. Actually, no. This is good because Dallas, is 2 hours ahead, right? So we'll have to figure that out. I might have to. I'll probably step out for 15 minutes. We might do a quick one next week for 15 minutes because I'll be in the middle of a real estate meeting with EXP Commercial, talking all things commercial business brokerage, M&A. Hopefully get to the Deferred Sales Trust in there as well. So that being said, I wish everybody well, and I thank you for being here, and we'll see you again soon, okay?
Thanks, Brett.
Okay.